Quick review about geometric figures. So we started out with 2D figures. So those are figures that are flat. They're also known as plane, P-L-A-N-E, plane shapes. They're things like triangles and squares and circles and rectangles and things like that. So the first thing that we talked about were polygons. And we said that to be a polygon, you have to have a certain characteristic. First, you have to have a closed figure. So this is not a polygon. Anything that is closed, meaning it has 3 or more sides, would be a polygon. But remember, there's one more thing that a polygon has to have. The sides have to be straight. So a circle or a cone or anything that has curved sides are not polygons. So it has to be a closed figure with 3 or more sides that are straight. Okay? So then we moved into some special kinds of polygons. Now, we all know what triangles are, so those are easy. But let's talk about quadrilaterals. Now, remember when we talked about quadrilaterals, we said that there are 5 types of quadrilaterals. Now, the one that is kind of like the daddy of the family tree are the parallelograms. To be a parallelogram, you have to have 2 pairs of parallel sides. So most parallelograms, when we think about them, look like the side of that eraser. When you look at your pink eraser from the side. Now, my parallel lines aren't great, but these 2 sides are parallel to each other. And these 2 sides are parallel to each other. They're the same distance apart forever and never get closer and never intersect. Then we also have the square. Now, we know that to be a square, not only do you have to have 4 sides because it's a quadrilateral, but you also have to have 4 right angles. And right angles are those angles that we also call square angles, and sometimes you'll see it notated with that little square in the corner. Okay? And all side lengths are congruent, which means they are the same length. Same size, same length. Okay? So all squares are parallelograms, but not all parallelograms can be squares because not all parallelograms have right angles. So then we had the rectangle. Now we all know that a rectangle is similar to a square because it does have 4 right angles, but not all sides are congruent, just the opposite sides. So all squares are actually rectangles because all squares have opposite sides that are congruent. These are congruent and these are congruent. But not all rectangles can be squares, right? Because not all rectangles have 4 sides that are all the same length. So then we got to the rhombus. Now the rhombus, its characteristics are that it has all congruent sides. Okay, so that rhombus, all side lengths are congruent, but it does not have 4 right angles. So that's what makes it different from a square. So all squares can be a rhombus because squares have all congruent sides, but not all, they're called rhombi or rhombuses, can be squares because they don't have right angles. And then we had this guy who is still part of the family because he is a quadrilateral. However, if you remember, he's kind of the black sheep of the family because he only has that one set of sides that are parallel to each other. And we call him the trapezoid. Okay? So quadrilaterals have to have 4 sides, right? So there's your review quickly on quadrilaterals. Now, then we have those other shapes, and we said, you know, we have this thing called a pentagon, and penta means 5. So as long as it's a 5-sided shape, it's a pentagon. They don't all have to be congruent length sides. Then we had the hexagon, and hex has 6 sides. The easy way to remember that is both 6 and hex both have that X, so 6 sides. Then we had the octagon. Now, when you think octagon, I know you think, I know you're thinking stop sign. Oct means 8. So when you think octagon, you're thinking any 8-sided figure. Even if it doesn't look like a stop sign, if it has 8 sides, it is an octagon. So hopefully that helps you with a review for 2-dimensional shapes. And later we will talk 3-dimensional shapes and do a review for that.